Ever get that feeling? Like,
Uh-huh.
just because they say a case is closed, it doesn't mean all the loose ends are really tied up.
Right.
That's what we're looking at today, actually. This case from Taiwan, they call it the Mama Mouth murder case, and it really shows how leaked info, basically can turn the justice system upside down.
It really highlights how fragile things can be, the legal process, I mean, especially when you've got public opinion getting all tangled up with an active investigation.
Yeah, it's like a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. A seemingly normal cafe, then bam, a double murder.
Yeah.
And right at the center of it all, a man named Mr. Lu Lo, who got swept up in this storm of accusations, all because of leaks.
This is one of those cases that really makes you think, because it boils down to such a fundamental question. How do we balance the public's need to know, their right to know what's going on, with the right to a fair trial? That's not always easy.
Not at all.
Yeah.
All right, so let's set the scene here. It's 2013. We're in Bali, Taiwan, peaceful community right up until this gruesome discovery. An older couple, the Chens, found dead near the Tamsui River.
And this wasn't some random act either. The brutality of it, I mean, we're talking multiple stab wounds. It shook the community, and of course that put enormous pressure on law enforcement to find whoever did this.
Right, everyone wants answers. So enter Shi Yihan. She's the manager at the cafe, Mama Mouth. And guess what? She's caught on camera trying to use the victim's ATM card. Seems pretty open and shut at that point, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. You've got a suspect, a potential motive, and a direct link to the victims. But here's where things get interesting. Taiwanese law is very clear. Anything about an ongoing investigation, that information is supposed to be confidential.
Makes sense. Right. Protect the case, protect everyone's rights.
Exactly.
So we've got rules in place to stop exactly what we're about to talk about. Let me guess. Those rules got, let's say, bent a little?
Bent. Honey, those rules got thrown right out the window. This Mama Mouth case, it's practically a masterclass in how bad leaks can be, how they can derail a whole investigation.
All right, so let's get this straight. We've got a murder investigation, pressure's on, everyone wants answers. And the rules, the ones that are supposed to keep things fair, they get tossed aside. What happens next?
Well, she confesses, so you figure, okay, big break in the case.
Case closed, right.
Not quite. It's not that simple. See, her confession, it doesn't stop with her. She starts naming names, claiming others were involved.
Oh, boy. Here's where those leaks go from just being like juicy gossip to actually playing judge and jury before the trial even starts.
And you hit the nail on the head. Who's caught in the crossfire? Mr. Lu, the owner of Mama Mouth, the cafe.
Wait a minute. So the cafe owner, her boss, he gets roped into this double homicide just from her saying something. What if she's making it up?
That's the thing, right? This is all happening before any of it gets tested in court.
Yeah.
But out in the real world, the damage is already being done.
Hold on. I remember in the article they said a newspaper actually ran a story about Mr. Lu before they even arrested anyone. How does that even happen?
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's a perfect example of the problem. Information gets out, true or not, doesn't matter. The media, they want that scoop, they run with it. Next thing you know, you've got Mr. Lu, a guy who ran a quiet cafe. Suddenly, he's public enemy number one.
They called it a circus around the cafe. Can't even imagine what that must have been like for him, for everyone involved.
Total chaos. Reporters everywhere. People acting like they're experts, throwing out theories. It was a feeding frenzy. And, this case, it had all the ingredients for that kind of media storm. You've got a shocking crime, a confession that sounds like something out of a movie, and now this seemingly average guy running the cafe, suddenly he's the star of the show.
Okay, so the public, they've already made up their minds.
Yeah.
But what happens when they actually go to trial?
Well, all those other people she named, including Mr. Lu, they all said they had nothing to do with it. Every step of the way, they said they were innocent.
Let me guess. They were right.
Bingo. The case against them, it crumbled. That confession that started this whole mess turned out it wasn't reliable at all.
So justice is served. End of story.
Legally speaking, sure. But we both know it's not that simple, right? Public opinion, that's a whole other beast.
What do you mean? The guy was cleared.
True. But public opinion, it doesn't care about court dates or evidence. Once that damage is done, it's done.
It's like once something's on the internet, it's there forever, even if it's a lie.
Exactly. And those consequences, they can be brutal. Remember the article said Mr. Lu had to pay damages to the victims' families, along with the woman who was actually convicted?
Like, seriously, how's that even possible? He was found innocent.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes even when the courts admit something went wrong, it doesn't magically fix everything. Misinformation, public opinion, that stuff sticks around.
Man, that's rough. How do you even come back from that?
The article said Mr. Liu's still dealing with it all years later, financially, emotionally, the whole 9 yards. And he's not the only one either. It talks about other cases in Taiwan where these leaks happen, often for political reasons, just to manipulate people, ruin reputations.
So it's not just one cafe owner, one bad situation. It's like a pattern. They use these leaks to get the outcome they want, even if it's not the truth.
Exactly. This case, it shows us how powerful information is and how, when it's misused, it can have a real impact on people's lives, on society as a whole.
Makes you think, doesn't it? All this, a man's life turned upside down, and why? Because it makes for a good story.
Exactly. And it really brings home this question of what's the role of journalism supposed to be in these situations? How do you balance the public's right to know with someone's right to a fair trial? Especially now, when it feels like the lines are so blurred between actual news and, like, entertainment.
Yeah, it's tricky. We need transparency, especially when you're talking about potential abuses of power and all that. But when does reporting on something that's still going on become, like, interfering with the outcome? Who gets to decide that?
$1 million question. And I don't think there's an easy answer, but this Mama Mouth case, it reminds us that words matter. Once information is out, especially these days, it's out there. Hard to control that.
For sure. I mean, it makes you look at those true crime things differently, the documentaries, podcasts, all that. It's easy to get sucked into the drama, but we've got to remember, these are real lives.
Right. And it all comes down to thinking critically. Being willing to question what you see and hear, especially when it already fits what you believe or want to believe.
So next time you see breaking news, some crime, and they're throwing out all these details, judging people right away, remember Mr. Liu. Remember, there's always more to the story than we see at first. And sometimes, case closed is just the start of a much bigger conversation.
It really is a case that should stick with you. And not just because of the crime itself, but because it shows how we deal with information, how easy it is to get things wrong, and how high the stakes can be.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. And honestly, we're just scratching the surface. If you want to dig into the Mama Mouth case more, we've got a link to the full article in our show notes.
It's a fascinating read. Disturbing, but really interesting. And it brings up so many questions that go beyond just this one case. About the media, about the justice system, and about how we all deal with information these days.
Big questions.
Yeah.
And they're not going away anytime soon. But for now, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay mindful out there.